Dear friends, dear Sangha, today is March 31st, 2020. We are back here in the Zendo on Manitoulin Island. I'm sitting in the small room that is the Moonlit Crane Zendo, and it is a very awkward feeling talking here with no one in front of me. But I'm still going to try to give a Dharma talk in this age of social distancing, and maybe as a way of trying to stay in touch and to stay intimate with our Zen practice. I hope this will be of some use to you. Also, I want to give you some idea of our experience returning back from Spain. Some of you may find it interesting, and then maybe I'll say a few words about the current situation from my perspective of a Zen student. So to start, we spent the past 3 months in Spain. We stayed in a little town in Andalusia on the coast. We spent the whole 3 months there. We didn't really travel around. We actually never left the place. It's a very quiet little town. The economy is very much based on tourism, but it is not a party town. It's fairly quiet. It's old architecture with plazas and coffee shops, beaches. So it has a wonderful atmosphere. Everybody, because the weather is fairly good during this time of year. Everybody is enjoying themselves. People are happy and relaxed. So it's a nice place to spend at least part of the winter. We have been doing this for a few years now, and I really enjoy it. There is something physical about the place that I respond to. When I go down and look at the sea and look at the mountains and smell the salt of the ocean, it does something to me. It's not even joy. I don't think I can say it's joy. It's more like certain kind of contentment. I think all of us have our personal histories. It's not really the point of this Dharma talk, but there's a certain kind of timelessness that I feel in that landscape, and it is very peaceful, and I feel a sense of well-being. It's not that I don't feel it here. Sitting in the Zendo, this is a very special place for me, right where I'm sitting right now. It feels a little bit different here, though. So we have been enjoying doing this, and we stayed in this town, and for the longest time, it was business as usual. And then, of course, when the Spanish government passed its lockdown laws, when they really hit that panic button and they really didn't know what they could do to stop the spread of the virus, everything shut down overnight. It was very strict laws that everybody respected. It took a day or two for everyone to get on board, but very quickly everybody got the message, and people stayed indoors, and there were few people mainly walking their dogs outside or going to a store to buy bread or to buy daily necessities. There was certainly no socializing on the streets. It is very interesting to watch the community there. After 2 or 3 days, most of the tourists were gone. And it is almost, my feel was it was almost something medieval about it. They knew what to do. They kind of circled the wagons and they took care of each other at the same time, very much respecting the laws of the government. Everybody was well behaved. People wore masks if they had them. When you came into the store, there were spots marked where to stand at the cashier. People kept their distance. Walking in the street, people would cross the street. There were little narrow streets. People would keep that 2-meter distance between each other. Even though while we were there were no confirmed or suspected cases in the town itself, everybody was very serious. But there was no panic. There was no panic and there was no paranoia. And the stores were well stocked and there was plenty of everything to buy. People were not hoarding anything. So we tried to get back home. Of course, there were limited flights. And as it turned out, we basically got back on our original flight. We felt safe where we were. I received a lot of messages from Canada, and maybe it's difficult to have the right perception of what is happening. But in the times of pandemic, and this is what pandemic means, there is no place where you're truly safe. I never felt that we were in a bad place, or that we were in a place that we needed to get out of from. And I didn't feel that leaving Spain and coming to Canada, returning to Canada, I'm leaving a place of danger and coming to a place of safety. Of course, being here in a house, and it just happens to be on Manitoulin Island, there's lots of space, and we are much more comfortable here than we were in a tiny little apartment that's maybe 300 square feet. And we can go outside at will here, keeping the social distance, of course, which is natural here because our closest neighbor is half a kilometer away. So, to me personally, this does not feel like a quarantine. We are going to be quarantined now for 2 weeks, very strict quarantine. I'll say a few more words about how we arranged everything. But to me, it really feels like my everyday normal life, because sometimes months will pass and I won't get in the car and go anywhere or see anyone. So this is, the solitude is something I'm very much used to here. So this is no strain to me. But to many of you, this may be very uncomfortable and difficult time, being isolated, socially, at least physically isolated. And there's perhaps some things we can do about that. Not to feel socially isolated, even though physically we have to maintain a certain distance. But anyway, when the time came to travel, we have arranged a taxi. And just to give you a little example of how serious the Spanish are, you are not allowed to have more than one passenger in a regular car if you're a taxi driver. So the person who picked us up came in a minivan to take us to the airport, because that's the only way he could have 2 passengers. So the rules were pretty strict there, and everyone was very disciplined. When we got to the airport, the main terminal was closed, and there were only 4 flights that day. Ours was one of the 4, I believe. And we were the only people at the airport were the Canadians returning home. This was, in terms of age group, this were mainly retirees, people I would say 65 and older. And it was very interesting to observe the dynamic. I'm not sure, there must be some kind of psychological phenomena that people really maybe overwhelmed or have to pretend that nothing is happening or that everything is now fine, that now we were returning back home to Canada and we are sort of, all the difficulties are maybe behind us. So there was very little social distancing going on. There was very little discipline at the airport itself, even though we had pretty much the whole terminal to ourselves. Everyone was bunched up and talking to each other and so on, which was kind of interesting that this was happening, because everybody there was elderly, pretty much. And these were not young people. Anyhow, we got through the flight somehow. We had a stopover in Halifax to change the crew, and we landed in Montreal. And as soon as we got out of the plane and got into the airport, I could sense that the atmosphere was very much more relaxed than in Spain. There were variety. The airport wasn't as busy as it would normally be, but there you could still buy food, and some people were wearing masks and goggles, and others were completely behaving in a normal way. So the atmosphere in Canada on the whole felt very different than in Spain, and it was an interesting kind of psychological phenomenon that I noticed in myself. It was more difficult to be so vigilant and so careful, because in Spain everybody was very careful, whereas in Canada you're getting a lot of people who are basically just going on about their life, it seemed like, in a normal way. It felt really comfortable to kind of get that normalcy back. On the other hand, it was more difficult to maintain a certain kind of precautions. So what we arranged, Morgan was very helpful, and Jane's friend was very helpful. We arranged for all the food to be prepared for our 2 weeks quarantine. It was placed in our car, and Morgan has created a physical barrier within the car itself, so that we wouldn't be. We tried to take as much precaution as we could. She covered the seats and even the trunk and everything. She did a great job. And we stayed in a little basement apartment that she's renovating right now in her house, which is separate from the house and can be left untouched for 10 days or 2 weeks. No one will go there after we left. So we felt very good about that, and so then we drove back home without stopping anywhere. We got here, and we are now going through our quarantine. I'm telling you all of this just so you can get a sense that we can do this. We can be careful. We can try to deal with this situation as skillfully as we can, knowing whatever information we have. And we don't have the full information. At the same time, there's absolutely no need for us to panic, to be upset, or to be scared, or to be mean and cruel to each other. we can help each other through this situation, at the same time doing whatever we can, whatever is asked of us to do in this. For some, it could be a very difficult situation. So this is just a little bit, I wanted to give you a little bit about our experience in Spain and coming back. Coming here, driving through Espanola and coming onto the island, Manitoulin Island. Espanola was booming. There seemed to be more cars on the road than normal. I think it's an effect of a cheap gas here, and it's half price now. There were kids playing on the street, the shopping, the parking lots in front of Canadian Tire, and the grocery stores were full. So maybe people feel that there are no cases here, and that because it is a problem for travelers, or it is a problem, if you're in contact with somebody who has the virus. But that is just living in denial. This is not the case. This is not the situation that we are facing. You have to assume that every community is and will be affected. So we have to do the best we can and be disciplined through this period. I think naturally people don't want to change their behavior. This is natural. People want to go and visit their neighbors. Here it is a lifestyle to go and visit and have coffee and gossip, a little bit of gossip and coffee. This is, what people is comfortable and what is the normalcy, So people don't want to change that, and maybe they feel that they're okay, they're safe. But we don't know exactly. We don't really fully understand how this virus is transmitting itself, and so everybody needs to stay disciplined and stay at home and limit our physical interactions with each other. That is all I want to say about our experience and coming back and the travel. A few words about now, some of you at home, we cannot meet anymore and sit together. And we are setting up virtual ways of sitting together. And maybe at home you're sitting maybe a little bit more. You have some free time. You're not as busy. So maybe you're using this time to do a little bit more zazen and more meditation practice. This is certainly a good. But the main thing is, the most important thing about our practice is to remain steadfast. So if you can keep the same practice that you always keep, this is actually the most important thing. It doesn't matter if the times are good or the times are difficult. It doesn't matter if you're having a good sesshin or a bad sesshin. It doesn't matter if you're having a good day or bad day. To maintain that steadfastness of daily practice, this is most useful. This is when meditation is at its best, is when we can maintain that level keelness, to maintain that steadiness. It's real power, and it is especially needed in this time. So if you're doing a bit more sitting, that is great, but actually it is more, I would say, more useful to maintain that same daily practice that you always have had. And certainly if you have more time and you feel desire and need to sit more, sit as much as you want. There can be too much meditation, especially for people who don't have a lot of experience. I would not recommend for beginners to do more than 4 hours a day on their own, in their homes, without an access to a teacher or getting dokusan or some kind of instructions, maybe on a daily or weekly basis at least. But I would say the most important thing is to maintain your same daily practice that you always have had. and to maintain that steadiness and equanimity, as much as equanimity as you can, that comes from the years of sitting every day. So this is, I would say, is the most valuable thing in this time. Of course, we will do whatever we can to maintain connections and to maybe organize virtually a way of sitting together. And I already feel that I don't want these virtual sits to become the new norm, because this pandemic will pass like all pandemics. You know, they come and they burn themselves out. In time it will pass. And I'm already missing us sitting in the same space together, next to each other, physically next to each other, and being able to look into each other's faces and being close and sharing the practice together by sitting in the same space. So I hope that when this current crisis is over, that we will flock back and sit together and find each other again. I want to say a little bit now about a Zen student's perspective on watching what is happening, and kind of a lesson for our how can we, as Zen students, what can we do to help our society at this time? You know, this kind of situations always bring the best and the worst in people. And you really can see what is what and who is who. And when people are afraid and there's a lot of fear going around, this often brings the worst in people. We have already seen examples of tremendous courage and self-sacrifice. We have examples of Italian doctors coming out of retirement. These are not young people, and basically not having enough, and knowing that there won't be enough protective equipment, and basically they have passed away already from this virus. We have many inspiring examples of courage and generosity at this time. When we were in Spain, at 8 o'clock every evening, everyone would step out on the balconies and would clap for about 5 to 10 minutes in support and encouragement to all the health workers. And this is narrow streets, mostly apartment buildings, so there are a lot of balconies and everybody comes out. This was a safe and very inspiring way to show solidarity, and the whole town was clapping actually, and it's really something to experience. It is really wonderful. So you know, these times bring a lot of fear, they bring a lot of paranoia, a lot of irrational behavior, but it's also an opportunity for us, if we are practicing Zen, to just really understand that these times these are the times which actually it's no different than any other time, but because there's so much fear in the society, this is also the time to show even more generosity, to show our courage, to show our endurance. So whatever way you can, to support your neighbors and to help your neighbors, at the same time being very vigilant and being very careful, given the best available information we have, but at the same time to open our hearts even more and to show that we care and that we are there for each other. I think that is very important right now when people are isolated in their own homes. I thought, I heard when I was still in Spain, I heard these stories, how it is crazy to me, but supposedly the gun sales in United States, it was like the best day ever for the gun shops when they were starting to announce and that there may be some closures and there will be some restrictions on movement and so on, that there was a crisis coming. This is, well, given what I just said, I think maybe it's understandable, but it is very sad that if we are reacting in that way. Or when I saw all the stories of hoarding and people buying whole shelves of all things toilet paper, it's become a symbol. Toilet paper has become a symbol for our fear and our irrationality and our paranoia. Maybe we can use that. Toilet paper is a symbol of our generosity and our courage and our endurance. And maybe I could just imagine, this is a fantasy, but every household in Canada, every apartment in Canada putting a tub of toilet paper outside and saying free toilet paper or something. The whole Canada, if they did, that would be a tremendous message that we are not afraid and that we will get through this. We will get through this and we will show who we are. So this is a kind of a message. I think that maybe resonates with Zen students. It is this current situation is a scale. We can measure ourselves. We can measure where we really stand, how much we have digested the message of Buddha Dharma. Is this really something that is real in our lives, our practice? And how much real effect it has on our lives. So this was just a few thoughts to maybe share now that you are all in your home. Again, it is very odd feeling. There's nobody, it's an empty room. So I'm imagining in my mind, I am shuffling through the faces of the people who might listen to this, who I have spent time sitting with. And I hope that you're all well. I hope that you are safe, that you feel safe, and that you feel inspired to do good things over in the next little while. But again, maintain that steadfastness. I don't think really we need to do anything different than what we normally do. After all, we are always trying to be generous and to be patient and to maintain a certain level of steadiness and presence of mind in everything we do. So with those words, I will close it for today. And if you wish, at this time, it would not be wholly inappropriate to recite the 4 great vows. Thank you very much, and I hope to hear from all of you soon. Bye for now.